Welcome back to Ireland on a Budget. One thing that popped into my head this morning was I might tell you about an experience we had with our electric company just a few years ago. I think it was about 3 years ago, and it might just be relevant for somebody. So we had a account set up and we were paying, I believe there was a direct debit that my husband had set up, and it was something like €40, €42 or something per week. So that would get sent to the electric company. The bill would come, and at the time, I don't think we were having to pay any extra on top. But if there was any extra on top, it was fine because we had obviously already put in the 40 something towards the electric bill, so it was fine. That was fine. And then came the time when I was kind of left to sort out the bills myself. And so this had already been set up, it was fine. And then I got a letter from the electric company saying that due to like rising prices and whatever, I can't remember exactly what was in the letter, but basically that the direct debit should go up. And they wanted the direct debit to go up to like 65 or somewhere between 65 and 70 per week. And I was thinking, I can't afford that. I can't afford, like, I was struggling at the time, like I was in the depths. And I rang them like in a panic, thinking, God, like I can't afford that. So I rang them anyway, and I said to them, like, how is it going up so much? Like the bill hasn't really gone up that much. At the time it hadn't anyway. And the guy on the phone said something along the lines of, oh, well, because you're getting the government credit that's coming in, the government credit that was going to go in within next month or something after this phone call, he said if we add that on to your average usage, then we can reduce the direct debit that we think you should be paying to 52 or something. So it was an extra tenner. And so at the time I was like, oh, thank God, that's only an extra tenner than I'm already having to pay. Like, I'm still struggling to pay the bill, but like at least it's not €70. So I was really delighted, and I said, yeah, that's fine, change it, we'll change that, change the direct debit, and I started paying that, okay? So it was probably, oh God, it was a good while where I was struggling to get into the account. So I was struggling to get into the electricity account. Hold on one second. Apologies, it's the summer holidays and it feels like I have 2 million children. So where was I? I've been paying this bill and I was struggling to get into the account. That was it. So I couldn't get into the bank account or the electricity account, but I was receiving emails that were saying this is how much your bill is. And so just kind of going off of the emails every couple of months of this is how much your bill is, I was kind of thinking, oh, okay, that should be covered. If I owe any more, they'll get back to me. Do you know, that kind of thing? Like, surely they'll be getting on to me if I owe them money. And honestly, I was just so kind of overwhelmed by other things that I wasn't paying too much attention to it, which I would not recommend now. I think if there's any chance at all that you could be in debt or whatever, keep an eye on it, because the last thing that you need when you're struggling is somebody to land a bill on your lap. Okay, this is not one of those stories, thankfully. So eventually I managed to get into this account, and I don't know what I was doing different, but one day I was like, I'm going to try this again, and I tried it again, and I managed to get into the account, and I was like €200 in credit, and I couldn't believe it. Like, I think it was more than that. Like, there was a good amount in there. And it just was like I had been overpaying of my usage. And so whatever way that they were working out what my direct debit should be, it was obviously way off because I was in credit, and it really annoyed me. Obviously I was delighted to see, like, I'm in credit, there's no electricity to pay. But it really annoyed me because I had been struggling week to week to make sure that bill was paid, to make sure that money was going in so that I wasn't, being cut off or whatever. So I called the electric company and I said to them, I want to cancel the direct debit. And they were not happy. They would try anything to keep that direct debit. I said, no, I want to. And they were like, well, how are you going to pay us then? And I said, well, I'll just call you and pay you when I get my bill, whenever it comes through. That's when I'll pay it. So I cancelled that, and they said, oh, that there's a 6% um what is it, 6%, like you get 6% off your bill if you pay by direct debit. I was like, I don't care, I'm in, like, yeah. So anyway, that winter I ended up not having to pay electricity that winter, thank God. Because again, it's winter, you've got Christmas, you know, everything that goes on with that. um but anyway, the moral of the story is keep an eye on your accounts, keep an eye on your electricity, you know, what's going in. This was obviously, like, it was a good story because I ended up with like extra, but also there was months where I was struggling to put that money in when I could have done with that extra money. Do you know, even if it was only the 10 or 15 euro, whatever extra that was adding this up, um that makes a massive difference. And you know yourself, if you're in that situation, €5 could make the massive difference to the week. €5 could buy a dinner, you know, when you're in a tough situation. Yeah. So look, that was a long-winded story. It was a long-winded way of saying, just, you know, keep an eye on your accounts, keep an eye on your usage. And not 100% sure if direct debits would be the best idea. I suppose it just depends on how close an eye you keep on your usage and your accounts and things like that.